Welcome to yoga. Today we're going to start on our backs. I know I'm going to seat right now, but you can make your way to your mat and then find a comfortable position laying down on your back here. So if for some reason laying on your back is not comfortable for you in any way, you can always choose to start in a seat. But if you're on your back, you have a couple choices here. You can have your knees pointing up to the sky, maybe putting some space between the feet and then letting the knees sort of fall in towards each other. Or you can also have your legs flat on the ground if that feels more natural, more comfortable. Sometimes that might bother the lower back, so lifting the knees up can often give a little relief to the lower back. So if that's bothering you, that might be the choice for you. And then just settle into your mat, just getting the last wiggles out, maybe lifting up your heart and pulling the shoulder blades down the back just a little bit more. You can also bring your chin into your chest to lengthen the neck a little bit. And then even just rocking your head side to side for a second and letting it fall back to its natural center point sort of makes it feel like your head is nice and comfy. You can have your hands by your sides, palms facing up or down. And you can also bring your hands to rest somewhere on your belly. Maybe feeling your breath as it moves through your body underneath your fingertips. And now let's start to listen to our breath. At first, just staying with your normal, natural breath for a minute here. See what sort of breath sensations are calling out to your attention here. Perhaps you're feeling your breath on the inside of your nose and throat. Cool as you breathe in and warm as you breathe out. Maybe you feel your chest, your belly rising and falling with each breath. Or maybe you're feeling your back as it pushes against the ground with each inhale. And that gentle release of pressure as you exhale. You can even turn your attention to those little pauses in between each inhale and each exhale. Really tuning in to the natural rhythm of your breath as it is right now. Now let's start to stretch our breath out. Not in a forced way, just really gently adding a single count to each inhale and each exhale. You can imagine that your breath has a cadence to it. Maybe it's a beat of 4 as you're breathing in, 4 or 5 as you're breathing out. Sometimes our exhales end up being longer than our inhales, so that's okay too. And then with each breath in, each breath out, making those breaths a little bit longer. Until you've reached your full capacity. Perhaps you've gone all the way up to a count of 8 for each inhale and each exhale. Or something different. And then holding on to your nice full breath, take a moment to run your awareness through the rest of your body. Here we're looking for any spots that might be calling out to you, any areas that may be experiencing some soreness, or perhaps you have an injury that you want to be extra careful of today. I know my legs are feeling pretty funny because I went on a long hike this weekend, so maybe there's something you want to give a little extra attention to. And once you've gone through your whole body, made any mental notes of any areas that are unique to you that you want to pay close attention to today, return back to the breath, taking a couple more big, full, deep breaths here. Maybe even seeing if you're still at that nice long breath with a count of 8. Just being inside of your body. Blink the eyes open, coming into a big good morning stretch. Lift the hands up overhead, flat on the ground, and then stretch your body out as long as you can. Take a big breath in here. And as you breathe out, curl up into a ball, drawing the knees to the chest, wrapping the arms around the legs, and lifting your forehead up to your knees, squeezing everything tight together. One more time, just like that. Inhale, just stretch the body out long. Exhale, curling up into a ball. Releasing the head back down to the mat. Bring the hands to the kneecaps and do some nice gentle circles here. Getting some blood flowing through the hips, starting to warm up those muscles. Maybe you feel it in your core. Little lower back massage against the ground. And switch directions. See how it feels to go the other way. Maybe noticing some new things here, new sensations. Feeling the core and the hips starting to warm up. And the lower back getting a little massage against the ground. And come back to center. Bringing the arms out wide in a T, or you can bend at the elbows, pointing your fingers up. And floating the legs in a tabletop 90-degree angle in the knees and hips. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, dropping the knees down to one side. You can drop them all the way down to the floor. And then tuck those fingertips in the crease of the top knee, if that feels nice. And turn the gaze over to the opposite hand, completing the twist. Bringing awareness here to your back, your legs. See if you can figure out where in your body you're feeling this twist. On this side, we're going to switch over to the other side in a minute and compare notes. Maybe more on one side of the spine than the other, top or the bottom. And then switching sides, that arm comes back out to the side. Inhale, lifting the knees up. Exhale, dropping them down to the other side, all the way to the ground. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the top knee. And the gaze turning over to the other hand, completing your twist. Noticing where in your body you're feeling this twist, maybe more on one side than the other. And now you can compare notes with how it felt on the other side. Just gathering information about our bodies. And release. That arm comes back out to the side. Inhale, knees coming up to center. Keep one knee up to the chest. Let the opposite leg slide back down to its spot on the mat. And then back into the twist, this time just with the one leg crossing over the other. We can drop the foot down to the ground there. This hand can tuck in the crease of the knee. Opposite arm coming out to the side, turning the gaze over to the opposite arm, completing the twist. Notice how it feels different with the one leg up and the one leg down. Maybe feeling some new sensations in the hips here. Maybe you feel it more in your shoulder even. Just that change in the leg positioning can change how the upper body feels as well. And switching sides, bringing that arm back out. Lift your knee back into your chest. Other leg is coming to join it. And then switching sides, letting that one leg slide back down to its spot on the mat, crossing this knee over the body, dropping the foot down to the ground. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the knee, helping the leg stay down. And this other hand is coming out to the side, head turning over to the opposite arm, completing your twist. Release the hand back out to the side. Bring that knee back into the chest. Other leg is coming to join it. And then tuck the fingers in the creases of both knees and rock and roll forward and back along the spine a few times here. Making your way up to a seat. Coming into easy pose here. Sitting cross-legged on the mat, maybe taking some time to adjust your clothing, wiggle it out, find a comfortable seated position wherever that is, and then bringing the hands up. Big breath in to come up. Exhale, diving forward. Try to keep the spine nice and long, releasing the fingertips down. Take your time on your way down here, hinging forward from the hips. And then once you find your edge, however far down that is, rounding out the back, you can let your head and neck relax down and perhaps even drop the elbows down. It might also feel good to keep those arms outstretched, tenting the fingers on the mat, on the ground. Play around with those arms. See what feels nice. On your next inhale, rising back up to a seat. Dropping the hands down to the lap, maybe on the knees or in the center of the lap. And warming up our necks here, starting with just a really gentle side to side movement. You don't need to go down too far here. The neck can be super sensitive. So just honor where your neck is right now. Just really slowly and gently starting to warm up all those muscles. If you like, turning it into a half circle, dropping the chin down to the chest, coming back up to the other shoulder with your ear. Back and forth. You can tie this movement to your breath. If that feels good, exhale on the way down. Inhale, coming back up. Exhale, dropping the chin. Inhale as you lift your head. And then you can try that movement as well on the back of the neck. Noticing any funny noises that might happen there. Totally happens in my neck, so it's got to be normal, right? One way and the other. And when you're ready, you can turn that into a big circle all the way around. It might not feel like a circle shape, might feel more like a blob shape or oval shape. That's okay too. Whatever feels natural here. Find circles, ovals, blob shapes in the opposite direction as well. Noticing any changes in those sensations that you feel as you're switching directions. You can even switch directions every time you make a circle. One circle one way, And then a circle the other way. And when the neck feels nice and warm, coming back up to center, let's come into a twist here. Big breath in to sweep the hands up overhead. Exhale, twisting to the right. Right hand coming behind, left hand crossing over the right knee. Big breath in to sit up tall. On the exhale, deepening into the twist, peeking over the right shoulder. Inhale, sit up tall. Keep your hands where they are. Straighten out the elbows, lengthen the spine. Exhale, going deeper into the twist. Releasing the hands, coming back to center, floating the hands up. Exhale, down the other way. The left hand coming behind, right hand crossing over the left knee. Breathing in to sit up tall. And exhale, peeking over the back shoulder. One more time with the breath. Releasing the hands, coming back to center, floating the hands up. Exhale, hands in the lap. Switching the legs. Front leg is going to come to the back, and the back leg goes out in front. This way might feel a little bit awkward. You're welcome to have your feet a little more open here to compensate for that sort of awkwardness that you feel coming in this other way. And let's try our forward fold on this side. Big breath in, stretch the spine up tall, lift the hands up overhead. Exhale, folding forward. Take your time, pulling hands through heart center and then releasing the fingers down to the ground. Try to keep the spine really long as you walk your fingers forward. Nice and slow. Finding your own edge, wherever that stopping point is, relaxing into the fold, rounding out the back and letting the head and neck come down towards the ground. Keeping the fingers tented and the elbows elevated if that feels nice. Or another option is to drop the elbows down to the ground, relaxing the arms. Focusing on your breath. Hearing the sound of your breath and then also feeling your breath moving through your upper body. Maybe it feels a little different. Breathing as you're folded forward. On your next inhale, rising back up to a seat. Releasing the hands outside the knees. Doing our little spinal warm up here. Seated cat-cow. Tying it to your own breath at whatever pace you are breathing at this time. On your inhales, rolling the shoulders down, arching the back, and then leaning the head back and peeking up to the sky. As you exhale, start to push your spine out behind you, starting from the very base of the spine, one vertebrae at a time, and then relaxing your head and neck down. Inhale, shoulders roll down, arching the back, peeking up. Exhale, pushing the spine out behind you, relaxing the head and neck down. Just going at your own speed here. Nice loud breaths to help you stay in time with your own breathing. On your next inhale, coming back up to a neutral spine, trying a little twist here on this side with a breath in, floating the hands up overhead. As you breathe out, bringing one hand down to the ground and then leaning down towards that hand on the ground. Upper arm can come arcing overhead like a rainbow. If you like, you can crawl these fingers out to the side. However far out they feel good. And then an option here is to bend and straighten that elbow. You can also just find some stillness on a higher position or a lower one. Notice how that open side there is feeling. Maybe you're getting a stretch there, maybe in the arm. Breathing in to come up, float the hands up overhead. Exhale down the other way. Other arm comes down, walking the fingers out as much as you like. Top arm is arcing overhead like a rainbow. And then an option to find some movement here, or finding stillness with the arm nice and straight, or maybe stillness with that elbow bent down towards the ground. Breathing in to come back up, stretching the spine up really tall. Look up, bring your hands together. Exhale, release. Hands in the lap. We're going to do one stretch today with our legs outstretched. Just a little leg stretch here. Bringing the legs out long in front of you, bending one knee and bringing the sole of that foot against your opposite leg. Flex these toes here. So you're pulling the toes toward the face. And then on a breath in, lift the hands up overhead. As you breathe out, fold forward, hinging from the hips, reaching for that outstretched foot. It's okay if you don't end up coming all the way there. You can grab onto your foot. You can rest your hands on your leg, on the ground outside of your leg. Wherever you find your edge, just relax into the fold. Let your head and neck relax down towards your knee. Round out the back. I really like going in and out of this pose with my breath just a little bit on the inhales, lifting up just your head and upper chest, opening up the chest to make room for the lungs to expand. And as you breathe out, see if you can go a little bit deeper into the fold. Inhale, lifting up as you breathe in. Exhale, a tiny bit deeper in the fold. A couple more times with your breath. Maybe going deeper and deeper, just a tiny bit, fraction of an inch deeper every time you fold forward. On your next breath in, walk your hands back, lifting up your chest. Bring your hands behind you, all the way behind you, fingers pointing towards your hips. Bring the knees up to the sky and rock the legs side to side. And then switch sides. Other leg is coming out. This knee is bent, sole of the foot against the opposite inner thigh. Big breath in to float the hands up. Exhale, folding forward, hinging from the hips, reaching for that outstretched foot. It's okay if you don't get all the way there. You can have your hands on either side of the leg or resting on the leg wherever they feel nice. And then going in and out with the breath as you breathe in, lifting up just your head and upper chest, pushing the shoulders down the back. Make room here for your lungs to expand. Exhale, going deeper into the fold. Inhale to lift up. Exhale, deepening into the fold. Couple more times at your own pace with your breath. On your next breath in, walk the hands back, lifting up the chest. Hands come all the way behind you. Point the knees up to the sky and gently rock the legs side to side. And let's make our way to hands and knees, tabletop. You can plant your hands and roll over the feet or swing the legs around to one side. I'm actually going to grab my phone just to keep track of the time here. Hands and knees tabletop, setting up for success, lining up our shoulders right over our wrists, putting some space between the fingers, having a little micro bend in the knuckles, and then bringing the knees together to touch right underneath the hips. And then we can start to move. First, step one foot back, tuck the toes under, and then push through the heel. So we're stretching out. We're stretching out that calf muscle here. You can stay put, find some stillness, stay in that stretch, or you can go back and forth, really exploring how it feels as you're putting pressure, pushing through that heel, stretching out that calf muscle. And switch sides, bringing that knee back to its spot on the mat, stepping the other foot back, tuck the toes under, push through the heel, find some stillness, or find some movement going back and forth, exploring how that movement feels. Really stretching out the back of the calf muscle. And then step that knee back, dropping the knee back to its spot on the mat. Lifting the other leg up, pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. Maybe the opposite arm comes up as well. Take a big breath in and stretch it out long. Exhale, release, hand and knee back down to their spots on the mat. Switching sides, other leg comes up, pushing through the sole of the foot, stamping that foot into a wall behind you, and then maybe lifting the opposite arm. If you feel too wobbly, keep both hands on the ground there. Just a little extra added security. Take a big breath in to stretch it out long. And exhale, release. Let's tie that movement to our breath. Inhale, lift and stretch the hand and the leg, or just the leg. Exhale, release. Inhale, switching sides, lift and stretch. Exhale, release. Listen to your own breathing here. Tying the movement to your own breath. We're all breathing at a different pace, so it's totally okay to go at a different pace than me. One more time on either side with your own breath. And coming back to hands and knees, tabletop, little resting pose here. Child's pose, put some space between the knees. Pushing the hips back to the heels, letting the upper legs rest on the lower legs, and then relaxing the head down. Forehead comes to rest on the mat. Elbows resting on the mat. Notice how that movement has changed your breath. Maybe the breath feels a little faster here, or more shallow. Maybe there's not any specific words you have to describe the qualities of the breath, but they're just sensations, and that's okay. See what sort of sensations are calling to your attention that are associated with your breathing here. And then see if you can stretch the breath out. Come back to a nice full deep breath once more. On your next breath in, lifting your chest, coming back to hands and knees, tabletop. Toe stretch. Tuck the toes under. If your toes are like mine and your pinky toe is so tiny that it doesn't want to go, you might have to lean back and help it. Pull those toes forward. You can even angle your heels out to the side a little so that all your toes are resting against the ground. And then you can either keep your hands on the ground and regulate how much pressure is going onto the feet by pushing the hips back towards the heels. Or if you want even more pressure on those feet and it feels okay, you can lift your hands up and sit on the heels. Really lots of pressure on the feet. It's a really nice stretch there, and our feet hold us up all day long, so it's good to give them some love. Hands on the ground or hands off the ground. One more big breath in. And then release. Plant your hands on the mat. If they're lifted, untuck the toes and tap the tops of the feet on the mat. And let's rise all the way up to standing, however you want to get there. Take some time to adjust your clothing. I know it can get messed up when we're laying down and doing those seated postures. And let's make our way to mountain pose. Two options, big toes touching with some space between the heels, or feet on two different train tracks. There's no right or wrong. It's just personal preference, whichever one feels better to you. Lifting up the toes, you can peek down at the toes, spread them all out, pull out, lift it up off the mat, and then set them down again, rocking back and forth. Really, really gently here. Not enough to lose your balance, but enough to wake up all the nerve endings on the bottoms of the feet. Waking up our body. Gaining insight and awareness into all the sensations that our body can experience. You can come onto the sides of the feet, feel into those sides, putting all your weight on the sides, and then come back to the center. See if you can find all four corners of both of your arches. Our foot has an arch from front to back, and then also from side to side. So it's not a perfect rectangle because the heel is smaller than the toes, but you can almost feel those 4 points as you move, those 4 points of your arches there. And then finding stillness in the feet, lifting up on the spine, roll the shoulders down the back, bring some action into the hands, palms facing forward, stretching the fingers out. Every muscle is super active here, stretching the spine out nice and tall. Maybe even imagining a string pulling up the top of your head from the very center of the top of your head so that your spine comes even a little bit taller. Big breath in to float the hands up overhead. Look up, bring the hands together. Exhale, coming back to mountain pose, pulling hands through heart center and then releasing the hands down by your sides. Another name for mountain pose is equal standing posture. We could imagine if we had a line straight down the center of our bodies, that the two sides of our bodies here would be equal. Big breath in, float the hands up, stretch the spine up tall, look up, bring the hands together. Exhale, mountain pose, pulling hands down through heart center and then releasing them down by the sides. Warrior sequence. You can have your hands on your hips to set up the feet. One foot is going to come forward, toes pointing towards the short end of the mat, and then slide this foot back behind you. Stance can be as wide as it feels good inside of your legs, the hips and the legs. Front heel lining up with the back foot, the center of the back foot or the back arch, and that front knee has a nice deep bend in it. And then check on your spine. Make sure the spine is centered right above the hips. Sometimes we have a tendency to lean forward in the warrior poses, so we want to be making sure our spine is nice and tall here. And bring the arms up, peeking back at that backhand to make sure it's nice and high. And bringing the gaze right to the front middle finger. Let's move with our breath. Big breath in, straighten out the front knee, bring the hands up overhead. Exhale, bending the knee, lowering back down, warrior two. Inhale, knees straight, hands up overhead. Exhale, bending the knee, lowering back down. Keep going, tying this movement to the pace of your own breath. Really letting your breath be your guide, that internal guide that we always have. Exhale, coming back down to warrior two, and then let's switch sides, dropping the hands to the hips, straightening out that front knee, turning those front toes toward the long edge of the mat, and then turn the opposite toes toward the short end of the mat. You can also just switch which foot is in front. If you want to keep facing the same direction, that's also okay, however you want to get there. Check on your stance. Front heel lined up with the center of the back foot or the back heel. Front knee has that nice deep bend in it. The spine is centered right above the hips and the arms are out to either side, checking on that backhand, make sure it's nice and high. Gaze coming to the front middle finger. Inhale, knee straight, hands up overhead. Exhale, bending the knee, lowering back down. Keep going. Just moving at the pace of your own breath. Tuning into that internal guide. The one that's always with you. No matter what you do, the breath is always going to be there with you. Last one, up and down with the breath. And meeting back down in warrior two. Drop the hands to the hips, straighten out that front knee, bring your feet back together. Give it a little wiggle. We're going to do another warrior pose that I haven't done in this class yet. It's actually called crescent lunge, and it fits in with the warrior sequence, but it's not a traditional yoga pose, but it does stretch out the legs very well. And since I have this pain today in my calves, I'm going to show it to you guys. We'll start at the front edge of the mat, and we're going to have our feet a little bit apart here. When you come into crescent lunge, it's a balance challenge, so we always want to have a little bit of space between our feet, kind of on two different train tracks. And then let's have our hands at our hips. Take a big breath in here. And as you breathe out, step one foot back, keeping both toes pointing forward. This front knee is bent and the back heel is lifted. And once you feel nice and steady on the feet, you can open up your feet if you're feeling wobbly here. Bring the hands up overhead. Let's do a couple knee dips here. Take a big breath in. And as you breathe out, you're going to dip your back knee down towards the ground. It can be a tiny movement or a big one. Inhale back up. Exhale, dipping that knee down. Back up to breathe in. And one more time, dipping the knee down. Inhale back up. Exhale, drop your hands to your hips. Step that foot forward. Give it a little wiggle. And let's try the other side, keeping that space between your feet. So your feet are on two different train tracks. Take a big breath in. As you breathe out, bend your knees, step the other foot back. Take your time finding your stance here. It always takes me a minute to figure out exactly how far I want my feet to be from each other, side to side, and then also front to back. You can play with both of those distances. And once your feet feel nice and steady, the hands come up. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, knee dip, dipping that knee down towards the ground a lot, or even just a tiny bit. Inhale, back up. Exhale, dipping the knee. One more time, up and down with the breath. Back up on the breath in. Drop your hands to your hips. Step that foot forward. Shake it out. Coming into ragdoll, giving our spines a little release here. Feet about hip width distance apart. On a breath in, bring the hands up. And as you breathe out, fold forward, bend the knees, hinge from the hips, relax the upper body down. Once your head and neck are dangling down, reach your hands out and grab onto opposite elbows. We can rock side to side here very gently by bending one knee at a time if that feels nice. Finding a little movement. Bringing awareness to the spine. Feel how gravity is opening up your spine here. All day long, gravity pulls our spines the other way, and here we're using gravity to help open up the spine a little bit. And then release. Let your fingertips come back down to the mat. Weight comes to the fingers, heel to the feet, bringing them back together. Bend the knees, rise up to standing. Exhale, mountain pose. Okay, let's try a little balancing sequence here. As always, if you're feeling wobbly today, even if it's just because you have a little congestion in your inner ear, you can always go over to a wall, just plant your hand on a wall, just for that little extra added security. And we'll start with tree pose. All weight coming to one leg. The opposite knee is pointing straight out to the side. And then we have three options here. Toes on the ground, sole of the foot on the ankle. Maybe bringing the heel up underneath the knee. Or perhaps you want to come all the way up above the knee on the thigh. And check in on that standing hip here. So I have my little mic receiver, so it looks like my hip is sticking out. But you really want to make sure you're not slouching that hip out to the side. You want to stand up nice and tall. Keep that hip nice and tall. And once you're steady on the feet, if you like, you can include your arms. There's no wrong place for the arms in tree pose. If you want an extra shoulder stretch, though, you can wrap your hands back behind you and then grab onto opposite elbows, pulling the shoulders open, down and back, opening up the chest. One more big breath in. On your exhale, release, give it a wiggle, shake it all out. And let's try the other side. All weight coming to the other leg, this knee pointing straight out to the side, toes on the ground, sole of the foot on the ankle, heel under the knee, or maybe all the way up on the thigh. Checking on the standing hip to make sure we're not slouching it out to the side. Arms can be anywhere they feel good, out like tree branches, up overhead, maybe the fingers come together or the palms come together. Or if you want to try the shoulder stretch, hands wrap back behind you, grabbing onto opposite elbows. See if you can cross your arms the awkward way, opposite of how you crossed them last time. If this is the option you want to take, pull the shoulders down and back to open up the chest. And hold on to your breath here. One last big breath in. Exhale, release, shake it out, give it a wiggle. Coming back into our ragdoll pose again. This time we'll cross our arms the awkward way. Feet hip width distance apart. Big breath in, bringing the hands up. Exhale, folding forward, hinging from the hips, relaxing the head and neck down, grabbing onto opposite elbows, and then rocking side to side by bending one knee at a time. Feel your spine opening up. You can almost feel the kinks just falling right out of the spine. Gravity helping your spine to realign. And then release. Weight comes to the fingertips at the front of the mat. Two heel toe the feet together. Bend the knees. Inhale to standing, arms dangling down. Unroll the spine one vertebrae at a time. Exhale, mountain pose. All right, let's make our way down to a seat. Stretching our legs out long in front of us. Coming into a two-legged seated forward fold this time. Pulling the toes toward our face, flexing our feet. And then on a breath in, hands come up. Exhale, fold forward. You can have a little bend in your knees here, but try to keep your spine really long as you go down. And then once you find your edge, you're not going any farther with a long spine. You can round out your back, relax your head and neck down. Hands can be on the mat, on your legs, or maybe you can even grab onto the outside pinky toe edges of the feet or interlace the fingers underneath the feet. Head and neck are just relaxing down towards the knees. On your next breath in, walking your hands back, lifting up your chest. Bring your hands behind you. Fingers pointing towards the hips, leaning back on the hands. Pop the knees up, pointing the knees toward the sky. And then gently rocking the legs side to side. Butterfly pose, also called bound ankle. Soles of the feet come together, knees opening out to the sides. Your knees might be up a lot. You can have them down or up, wherever the hips feel good. Pull the feet as close as they feel comfortable, and then interlacing the fingers, tuck the fingers underneath the toes. Take a big breath in here and sit up tall. Exhale, going into your fold. Once again, trying to keep the spine line long. You can bring the fingers outside of the toes. Push the knees down with the elbows, and whenever you find your edge, just relax into the fold, rounding out the back, letting the head and neck relax down. You can also stretch your hands out long in front of you. On your next inhale, walk your hands back, lifting up your chest. Bring the knees together, making our way into boat pose. Starting with the knees pointing up to the sky, clasping the hands together outside of the legs, lifting up on the spine. Push the shoulders down the back. Maybe even lean back a little to get a little extra length in the spine. If this feels pretty good, you can stay here. If you want to go a little deeper, a little more challenging, you can tuck the fingers in the creases of both knees and lean back to float the feet. You can stay here. Maybe release the arms out to the side. Maybe straighten out the legs. That's really, really, really hard. If you notice some shaking here, I was taught that we are shaking out all the pent up cortisol that has accumulated in our muscles, which stresses us out. So, this is getting rid of all of that stress hormone here. We're just clearing out our muscles. It's a de stressing pose. One more breath in. Exhale, release. Drop the feet down to the ground. Once again, hands behind us. Leaning back on the hands, gently rock the knees side to side. And come all the way down to your back. Happy baby pose. So for this one, we're going to bring the knees in towards the chest, but instead of clasping our hands together outside of the knees, we're going to use one hand on either hand and pull the knees in towards the armpits. And if you want to stretch your legs out, another variation of this pose is to grab onto the pinky toe edges of the feet and then pull the knees toward the armpits. And then you can also go one at a time. Bend one knee, straighten out the other leg. And trade off like that. Bending the other knee, straightening out the opposite leg. Rocking side to side. And then release, coming back to center, back into our supine twist, floating the legs in a tabletop, arms out wide in a T, or goal posting the arms. Take a big breath in. Exhale, dropping the knees down to one side, back where we started, all the way to the ground. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the top knee. Gaze turning over to the opposite arm. If you can, try to think back to how you felt in this pose at the very beginning of our flow. We've been doing lots of movement, really warming up our bodies, so it's possible that you're feeling this pose in different places at this time. You could also feel it in the very same spots. Maybe it feels easier or more difficult. Maybe it feels better. Anything's okay. We're just noticing what sort of sensations we're experiencing. And then switching sides, top arm comes back out to the side. Inhale, knees to center. Exhale, dropping him down the other way, all the way to the ground, fingertips in the crease of the top knee, and the gaze turning over to the other hand. Thinking back to the very beginning of the flow. Maybe you recall some sensations you were experiencing in this pose at that time that might be similar or different to what you're experiencing right now. Maybe there's some new things you're noticing. Or maybe it's exactly the same. And then release. Top hand comes back out to the side. Inhale, knees to center. Exhale, letting the legs come all the way down flat on the mat. Making our way into our meditation here, Shavasana, the last pose or relaxation pose. Shavasana is typically taken on the back. So you're welcome to join me on your back, or if laying on your back is uncomfortable to you, you can lay on a side, on your belly, or find a comfortable seat. And then make any adjustments here, lifting up the chest and pulling the shoulders down the back, lengthening the neck or rocking the head side to side. And just like we had this option at the very beginning of our class, if your lower back is bothering you here, you can always point the knees up to the sky, put some space between the feet, and then just let the knees gently fall in towards each other. They don't even need to touch. It just gives them a place to rest there. Releasing your body. Feel yourself melting into the ground. All the tension is just flowing out of you here. Release your breath. Letting go of any intentional breathing here and just returning back to the natural, normal, easy breath. And the last thing we release is our mind. The normal state of the human mind is to constantly be thinking about one thing or another. As humans, we have so much to plan for, and we have the incredible ability to recall things from the past and learn from our mistakes. But sometimes this gets us into trouble because we focus on those things a little bit too much. Focusing on the past mistakes, feeling uncomfortable with ourselves, maybe even feeling shame from our past mistakes, or focusing on the future and having concerns about the future. And it's very hard for humans to shut the mind down completely. So if that's a challenge for you as well, perhaps you find it easier to imagine that your thoughts are like little fish in a river. Each thought has its own shape, color, maybe some sparkly scales or some little fins. And each time you notice one of those thoughts surfacing, coming up to the top of the pond of your mind, just imagine it swimming back down, swimming away, being taken away by the current of the river. Watch it disappear. And watch as it's replaced by something new, a new thought, a new shape or color. Find a few moments here of stillness to complete your practice today. We'll just have some few minutes of silent meditation, and then we'll come back together and do some final poses to complete our flow. bring your awareness back to your breath. Taking some deeper inhales and exhales. Bring some movement into your fingers and toes. You can roll your wrists and ankles, rock your head side to side. If you like, you can take a big stretch with your hands up overhead. And then as you feel ready, make your way, however you like to get there, back up to a comfortable seat. Coming back into easy pose. With a breath in, floating the hands up overhead. Exhale, diving from the hips, stretching the hands out in front of you, folding forward over the feet. Inhale, rising back up to a seat, floating the hands all the way up. Exhale, side stretch, one hand coming down, maybe walking the fingers out, maybe bending, straightening the elbow, or finding stillness if that's what feels right to you. And then on a breath in, lifting back up to center. Exhale, stretching down the other way. Breathing in, come back up to center, float the hands up, look up, hands come together. Exhale, release, hands on the lap. Thank you all so much for joining me today for yoga. I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday and a wonderful week, and I will see you all next